this is Gilbert Gottfried, and this is Gilbert and Frank's Amazing Colossal Obsessions.
Colossal Obsessions.
And with us is a very brave man who, it's the Southern black jazz singer, Ray Bone.
Wait, he's a jazz singer now? He was a blues singer.
Well, yes. I'm talking about the Neil Diamond jazz singer.
Oh,
yes.
I see.
with Laurence Olivier going, I have no son.
Very good.
And anyway, he came out. It took a lot of courage to come out and say this, that he's suffering from Munchausen syndrome by proxy. And
I love that movie. My favorite Coen brothers.
And he's, up until now, it's because that's, I think one out of every two people in the public has Munchausen.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh.
And now they announce it may be a lot more than that.
It's underpublicized.
Yes.
For something that's such an epidemic.
Munchausen.
If it's all right with you, next week I'd like to bring my proxy.
Bring your proxy.
I'd like to.
and I think Bono is doing a concert.
Really?
Yes.
Right.
Good old Bono.
Concert for Munchausen.
Who cares about his fans?
Now here's something from the Dracula one we did.
Okay. We did worst Dracula movies, in case you weren't listening last week.
Now, although Lon Chaney Jr. was miscast as Dracula, the movie wasn't terrible.
Not terrible, but not good.
No, not really good, but it has parts that are okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was the first on-screen transformation.
Yes,
into a bat.
And so it's a passable one. Mm-hmm. Some say even kind of good.
Okay.
And Dracula's daughter.
I got shit for that one online. People said Dracula's daughter's good because it's got the lesbian scene.
Yes. That was the first thing I said when you mentioned. See, perverts like me and the rest of the guys out there know about good lesbian scenes in horror.
Yep. In fact, it was proxy by Munchausen or whatever his name is, Paul Raybone, who brought that up.
Well, I'm the one who brought it up first because I know it had a lesbian scene.
Yeah, so we apologize.
That's what I love about that.
We apologize to the fans, Chris Cluess, if you're listening, and the fans of Dracula's daughter.
Because it's that scene where she's painting, she needs a girl model, and she's painting her, and it turns very lesbian.
Okay.
It could be more or less lesbian,
but moderately lesbian.
Very lesbian.
Now,
extremely lesbian. Mucho lesbianos.
Now, which is I watched that on the Spanish channel. Mucho lesbianos. I like the music.
This one's off the rails at the 3-minute mark.
Now, should we mention a passing?
Yes, who passed? Oh, well, we should do. We're going to do a whole episode.
We'll do a separate.
About our friend James Caron.
Yes.
Yeah, we know James and love him too much to try to squeeze him into 2 or 3 minutes here. But
we wanted to squeeze him into Mucho Lesbiano.
He would have. He might have appreciated that. We will.
He would have died a lot happier.
We will do a future episode soon, a proper tribute and send off to the great, wonderful James Caron. But
so that was wrong. Dracula's daughter.
Yeah,
because it's a respected weird.
Okay,
cult film.
So let's see which ones you have issue with this week.
And Son of Dracula. Not a classic, but perfectly watchable.
Just Chaney miscast as the count.
So since we're threatening to take up the whole episode with this introduction, I have more introductory material I would like to introduce.
Hit me.
Because we like to keep the podcast on a strict scientific basis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a researcher looked since 1850. There have been 56 case descriptions of people who believed they were metamorphosizing into an animal. 13 met the criteria for clinical lycanthropy.
Wow.
the
Excellent.
understanding that
That's
they
what
are
you'll have
turning
next
into
week.
it. That's it. Yes, and you can get that in some of our best offerings. The clinical lycanthropy.
Next
box.
week, he'll open
Yeah.
the show by saying you have clinical lycanthropy.
I made a mistake. You're saying
You shouldn't have brought it up. But I appreciate that you took a scientific approach
I like
to the
to try to
content.
get us
And-
back on the rails.
And the one who discovered that was Dr. Lon Chaney Jr. Yes. It was,
Paul, as a scientist, Paul's bringing a scientific perspective to the show. You have to appreciate that. Thank you, Paul.
I thank you. I like my work to be noticed. That really means a lot to me.
You're in the wrong place.
yes. Professor Lawrence Talbot discovered clinical
I
lycanthropy.
promised Gilbert last
Yes.
week that we would do, even though by the time you're listening to this episode, Halloween month has come and gone. But we have one holdover because we did bad Frankenstein movies. Gilbert got very, very excited. I
Frankenstein, yeah.
haven't seen you that excited since Muchos Lesbianos debuted.
And I had seen and was familiar with every one of those awful Frankenstein
Scarily enough,
movies.
including the one starring James Karen.
Yeah, especially.
And then we did bad Dracula movies, and you were active and animated, not as much. But this week I promised you bad werewolf movies. So Raybone and I did some digging, and this is what we came up with.
I don't know if I'll be, because I'm a strict Chaney Jr. fan.
Well, what if I started out with one that starred George Zucco
Oh my God!
and had Glenn Strange in it?
Wait! Was that Mad Monster?
You bet.
Oh my God!
Yes.
He's
That's
amazing,
it.
isn't he?
That's
Yes.
From
And-
1942.
That's right.
And as always, and they even used it in this next to last. The first of the Jurassic World pictures. They have what's his name with the long name. He's always the villain. I think it's an Italian name, which explains why he does bad
Wait a minute.
things.
In the first Jurassic Park?
No, the first Jurassic World.
Oh, which I didn't see.
Vincent D'Onofrio.
D'Onofrio.
Yeah, D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
When I saw him in that, all I could think is, well, this guy's been hanging out with George Zucco. 'Cause he says, we can train these velociraptors and they'll fight wars for us.
Famous last words.
And so, yeah, in Mad Monster is like Glenn Strange doing a combination of the Wolfman.
That's right.
And of Mice and Men.
He plays Petro.
Yes.
Or Petro.
And it's also of Mice and Men because he's walking around when he's Pedro. He's like, well, okay, doctor.
It's both a Wolfman and a Mice and Men homage?
Yes.
How
And
disturbing.
there's one part in the movie I love. Glenn Strange is, the guy was about 8 feet tall
Sure.
in real life and really big, bulky guy. And George Zucco sends him to kill someone in the room. So he tiptoes up behind him like you wouldn't hear him. It would be like Frankenstein tiptoeing.
Right.
Up. He tipped. So yeah, that one I like.
You actually going to defend this one, okay?
I'll defend. No, I mean it's a piece of shit. But
Don't get me wrong.
It's a likable one.
it's an enjoyable
It
piece
took
of
5 days
shit.
to film this masterwork.
That sounds like one-shot Bodine.
It was actually Sam Newfield.
I have one trivia piece with this.
Go.
In a few years earlier, George Zucco was in 1939, The Cat and the Canary.
Yes.
Starring with what mesmerizing woman?
Paulette Goddard?
Paulette Goddard.
Oh, gee.
And the reason she was in The Cat and the Canary is that she had tried out in 1939 for another film and lost to Vivian Leigh, and that film was Gone with the
Yes,
Wind.
of course.
So,
And I don't know if I said this. George Zucco, actually late in life, his wife drove him to the office or maybe the apartment of Ed Wood. and he wanted it. They wanted to see if Ed Wood was making a movie that he could put George Zucco.
That's
into.
heartbreaking.
That horrible.
I think you may have mentioned that in our George Zucco episode, but it's no less sad
and,
to hear it a second
then
time.
some producer or George Zucco's agent, when George Zucco was too sick to do anything, he called a producer and said, "Can you just call him and say you're offering him a job in a movie?
Wow.
He'll say no, but it'll make him feel better that people remember him."
Sounds like Sunset Boulevard.
It's very it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Here's a last piece of trivia on
But
before we move
and
on.
I heard he was trained to perform cunnilingus on rich women, George.
Nice callback.
Yes. Because chimps back then were trained to perform
Yes.
cunnilingus on
was-
rich Hollywood
As previously established.
True throughout the industry.
Gotta
Yes.
be true. According to British film historian Phil Hardy, this film, Man-Made Monster, shocked the British censor enough to ban it until 1952.
women. Yeah. Oh, wait. I think
Mad Monster.
that the English censor, they put out a warning on the film that in real life doctors are not using animal blood.
Yeah, it says then and only then they had to insist that it should be accompanied by a disclaimer on the matter of blood transfusion.
Yes.
Is he amazing?
Yeah.
Dr. Gottfried.
Amazing.
If you
Okay,
please.
Gil.
They should have added to that if you were that fucking stupid that you think doctors would actually use animal blood.
What if I told you Columbia, a year later in 1943, no,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah,
studio, released a vampire picture with Lugosi that also contained a werewolf.
Oh, wait. That was something of the vampire.
Yes.
It
It also starred Nina Foch or Nina Foch or Nina Folk. I never knew how she said her name.
Yeah.
F-O-C-H.
Wait.
He played Armin.
Return of the Vampire.
Yeah, he played Armin Tesla.
Yes.
Very good.
And it was Dracula,
Yes.
but
He couldn't call it Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
And-
it wasn't made by Universal.
And they had a guy who was supposed to be the Wolfman, but wasn't the Wolfman, with a guy who kind of acted like Lon Chaney, but wasn't Lon Chaney.
So the whole thing's a knockoff.
Yes.
The Armand, I kept trying to say Armand Tesla backwards or something because it sounds like Alucard.
Armand
It sounds
Tesla.
like it should be
Yes,
some kind
yes.
Where did they come up
It
with
is, I don't
Armin
know.
Tesla?
And-
But here was another trivia piece. Bela Lugosi was paid $3,500 for 4 weeks of filming.
A lot of money back
And
then.
now check this. You guys have to fact check this. Wikipedia says this was the last time he would receive top billing from a major studio.
In 43.
43. Does that sound right?
Yeah, well, it's 12 years after, good 12 years after Dracula.
And but they do have a scene where when he's got the stake in his heart or the sunlight, where you see his face melting away. So that's good. And I think they have a werewolf transformation scene.
There,
So that's,
there must be. I have never seen this.
it wasn't terrible. Was another case, wasn't great, but wasn't that good even, but wasn't terrible.
That was very precisely articulated.
What a range.
Yes. Yes.
Return of the Vampire. Why do they call him Armin Tesla?
Because he invented the radio in this. And the werewolf's name was Marconi.
I'm determined. I'm determined to stump you with one of these. You're
Okay.
you're very good on the Lugosi.
He was
Chaney
Italian,
pictures.
Marconi.
Yes.
He was.
Very, very good on. You can't stump him on anything with Glenn Strange or Chaney. Maybe I get him on this one, Paul. This is from 19.
And Glenn Strange, I think it was Bob Burns who went to
Oh,
Glenn
yeah,
Strange.
they were tight.
Yeah, and he said, Chaney Jr. died. Nobody wants to talk about him. And so Glenn Strange got out of bed, went to a station, talked about him, and they said a few days later he was dead.
Yep, it was a great story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bob was very close to Glenn Strange.
Yeah, he saw him as a father.
Do we stump you with this one from 1961? Werewolf in a girl's dormitory.
Oh, yes, that was that a Guinea production, I think?
Very good.
Italian horror film.
See?
Directed by Paulo Huish.
Right, except that the
Paulo.
producers insisted that he go under the name Richard Benson because
Yes.
we will not have an Italian direct a film in this studio.
But shot at Cinecittà.
There you go. Shot in Italy and
Shot in Italy.
grossed 115 million Italian lira.
How about that?
And I think
What
it
does
was
that come out to?
it was one of those they could appeal to guys in the audience, not just with a monster, but with pretty girls, and dormitory sounds really hot.
The American version of the film added the rock song "The Ghoul in School" to the opening credits.
So I'm not going to say this is. I'm not going to defend this.
Werewolf in a girl's dormitory.
And I'm not sure if I ever saw it or just saw stills and famous.
Oh, you
monsters.
saw it. I'm sure you saw it.
I'm sure I did.
The German actor Kurt Loewens plays the werewolf
Oh, geez.
in the film. Does that mean anything
Yeah,
to you?
he's good.
He's good.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. He wouldn't be hung for war crimes. He was punished by starring in this.
I see. It was this or the Nuremberg trial.
Yeah.
What about this one?
And in the middle of filming, he said, "Is it too late to get on the Nuremberg trial?"
What if I told you I had a Lon Chaney Jr. one for you?
Oh, excellent! Oh, this is probably the Mexican one.
Very good. What's
Yeah.
the title?
Was it Castle of Horror?
No.
Or Castle of Terror?
You are so close. Paul, should we help him out?
Mansion
Yeah, I don't have this
of-
one, so you
La
get it.
Casa del Terror, but it was released under the title The Face of the Screaming Werewolf.
And I remember what I remember best about this movie. There's a transformation scene.
Yep.
That's, a good transformation.
It's a mummified werewolf in this one.
But it's like, and it's probably because, Cheney was older now, and his drinking was certainly,
Yeah, he passed not long after this,
Yeah,
right? This
yeah.
is 65.
so he was already, years of alcohol. Because I remember seeing the werewolf. When he turns into the werewolf, I go, wow, he's got a big nose.
Well, what actually happened is an American filmmaker, a low-budget filmmaker named Jerry Warren, combined parts of two unrelated Mexican horror films, which they did in those days. La Momia Azteca, I assume means the Aztec mummy, and your guess,
Oh, well,
La Casa del
you
Terror.
know something? He appears as the mummy. I think they open up the coffin, or what do they call that?
The sarcophagus.
It's a sarcophagus, which Raybone is suffering. Advanced sarcophagus. And he's the mummy, but he's got his face is like melting and blood.
It sounds right.
And
That's where the face of the screaming werewolf comes from.
and then they unwrap him, and I guess he was a mummified werewolf.
Would you like to know the actual plot? A
Okay.
psychic woman named Ann Taylor regresses to a former life through hypnosis. She leads archaeologists into a pyramid where they discover a tomb of two mummies. One who turns out to be a mummified Caucasian werewolf.
That was a classic book, A Tale of Two
Yeah,
Mummies.
but Dorothy Has Two Mummies.
Yes.
I think it was. From a few years ago. Very progressive. The other was a mummified ancient Aztec warrior.
Okay.
And a mad doctor played by Jorve Beirut kidnaps the mummy/werewolf to his lab and manages to revive him when the unwrapped creature transforms into a snarling werewolf. Oh, my God.
Yes.
But you knew it. That's what's amazing. I just said Lon Chaney Jr., he knew it was Mexican.
Yes.
Right.
Based on a true
He was close,
story.
too. He
Based
had
on
the
a true
cast.
story. What did you find, Paul, on the face of the screaming werewolf?
I didn't find much, but I was interested to move on to another one here. If you want to
We
go
may have
to,
jumped over. We may have jumped over that one.
Well, how about the one with Michael Landon?
Yeah, Gil, what's your
teenage-
take on I Was a Teenage Werewolf?
I was a teenage werewolf.
Well, it's
Made by Samuel Arkoff.
Oh,
and
yes.
AIP, yeah.
And certainly I'm a fan of Arkoff, so I got to give it extra points.
Me too.
And then Landon, I like. So it's one of those movies that no, it's not good.
The transformation scenes aren't bad.
Yeah,
I watched some
yeah.
clips of it today.
Yeah, so those are good.
And it made Landon. It made his career.
Yes.
He got Bonanza a couple of years later. Yeah. What'd you find on that?
I've got
PR?
I've run down the budget again.
Okay.
On this one, a budget of $82,000, and it grossed $2 million.
Made money.
So that's
Yeah,
not
it's a
bad.
profitable movie. And
Would you invest $82,000 to make $2 million?
Absolutely. And it
There you
spawned those Teen Wolf movies. The Michael J. Fox and the Jason
Oh,
Bateman
yes,
Teen Wolf movies are
yes,
sort
yes.
of homages to
And
I
then
Was a Teenage Werewolf.
The Teenage Werewolf and Teenage Frankenstein both pop up in, what is it called? The Monster Maker? Or,
Oh, I know the one you mean. The one that's about the one where there's a character based on Jack Pierce.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
He's a
I
disgraced.
think it's called The Monster Maker.
Yeah, he's a disgraced movie.
Oh, How to Make a
maker.
Monster.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
it.
That's an
it.
AIP from
And
58.
Was that with Bissell?
Yeah, I think Whit Bissell's in Teenage Wolfman. Teenage Werewolf.
Yeah.
He's the mad scientist. This one was made in 58. How to Make a Monster is the one you're thinking of, with Robert Shane, Inspector Henderson.
Oh, wow.
So I was going to read that on a card of other oddities, but you jumped me again.
Jeez.
You knew that one. How to Make a Monster, 1958.
If it's monster shit, I know it.
What about She-Wolf of London from 1946, which was a Universal
Yes,
production
yes.
with June Lockhart
Oh, my
was
God.
the werewolman. She
Now-
was the werewolfess.
That one also seems like one I'm
Wolfstress.
sure I saw it.
You did, with Don Porter.
Yes, I'm sure I saw it. I'm sure I thought it. And but all I can remember really now is in, photos I saw in Monster Magazine.
Okay, what about Hammer Productions? I know you're not a Hammer fan, but in 61, they put out Curse of the Werewolf.
With Oliver
Reed, which
Yes.
is actually purported to be a good picture.
When was that? What year was that?
61.
61.
Yeah.
I don't know. They
don't care for that one.
They spent too much time on what made him a werewolf, and it was like ridiculously exaggerated. Like there's a wedding, like the king is getting married, and they bring in a drunk, and the drunk insults the king, and the king locks him up into a dungeon, and in the dungeon, he escapes, and all the other madmen escape, and they rape this one girl, and then she's put in a dungeon and beaten for years, and her son's a werewolf. And you go, just have him get fucking bitten by a wolf.
Just get to the throat ripping.
Yeah, right.
That's
yeah,
what you want.
yeah.
You want the werewolf scenes. You don't want all that exposition.
Yeah.
People like that picture, directed by Terrence Fisher, who made a lot of Hammer pictures, a lot of classic Hammer pictures. What if I said to you,
He
Gilbert?
did pictures about hammers.
What if I asked you if David Jansen of Fugitive fame ever played a werewolf?
Holy fuck. David Jansen.
It's hard to picture.
I cheated a little bit because it's a TV movie, and it's called Moon of the Wolf with Bradford Dillman.
Oh, that title sounds
And
familiar.
it's about a werewolf in the Louisiana Bayou, and it was directed by Daniel Petrie.
Wow.
How about that?
This one I'm a little stumped
You're
by.
a little stumped by that one.
Yeah.
Made for TV movie in 1972. We'll see what our listeners have on this
Oh,
one.
they're screaming.
They'll
right
write
now.
in. This one is just to make Paul laugh. There's one from 72 called Dr. Jekyll and Hombre Loco.
I want to watch that right now. Yeah.
I don't know anything about it. Apparently, there's a werewolf in it.
Oh, but you want to know a great urban legend about David Jansen?
Oh, is that he's the son of
Clark Gable.
Clark Gable, yeah, but not real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was a great one.
Yeah, Drew tried to convince me for years that Larry Storch was the brother of, who was it? Some famous comic. Oh, I'm going to screw this up. I'll think of it. But of course they weren't related.
He comes up with some weird ones.
Yeah, he
Drew.
makes them up.
Well, like he said to me very seriously that Eddie Cantor and Shemp from the Three Stooges were having a homosexual affair.
That's like his one about Clark Gable and who was it?
Oh, Clark Gable
and Andy Devine.
And Andy Devine.
He makes them up.
Which I say, that one is so good, I say it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need any proof. Clark Gable and Andy Devine fucking each other in the
And
ass.
also that James Comack from Chico and the Man fame was the illegitimate son of Uncle Milty, which is another thing he claims.
Yes.
Drew, if you're listening, we're coming for you.
And he said that, well, they were friends and they knew each other, but he says that Lon Chaney Jr. and Broderick Crawford would, at the studio, dress up in women's clothes.
Now, that one I believe.
And
That one sounds good.
it would definitely make a good TV movie of the week.
We'll have to do a whole mini episode with Drew about all of these rumors.
Yes.
We'll just have Drew come in and bullshit
His
us.
are always very disturbing.
Always disturbing and juicy. What about from 1972 also, The Rats Are Coming, The Werewolves Are Here?
The title I know. I know the title.
And finally, from 1975, and these are just...
Who was in The Rats Are Coming?
I couldn't tell you. I didn't write it down.
Or maybe you just don't want to tell me.
Leave Ullman?
No, we do know that no rats were harmed.
No
during the
rats were
filming.
harmed.
Yeah.
Maybe some werewolves. In 75, this is the last oddity I have on my card here. The Werewolf of Woodstock. Starring Michael Parks
Oh,
of Then Came Bronson.
yes.
And produced by Dick Clark. Doesn't that
Yeah,
kind of blow your mind?
sure.
I
Woodstock
think,
is that kind of place.
I think I saw Michael Parks at one of the last of the...
He was at the Chiller convention.
Yes, I saw him.
He passed away.
And he...
Well, we were going to book him
Yeah.
on the show, but he wasn't in very good shape.
No.
And then he passed away.
And he looked terrible there.
I'll ask you about this last. I never saw Wolf, the Nicholson picture. that Mike
Yes,
Nichols- that
with
Mike Nichols-
James Spader.
and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes.
Yeah. Any good? It's mixed reviews at best.
Yeah, they could have shortened it. It's got some parts that are okay, but it's by no stretch a classic.
And what about? Did you see the Benicio del Toro remake of The
yes,
Wolfman?
yes.
And what's your verdict on that?
That one, okay, well, getting back to, in Wolf, Jack Nicholson's makeup was very much like Henry Hull's
Was it Rick
makeup.
Baker? I think wasn't
Yeah,
it?
I think so.
Yeah.
But it was very much like Henry Hull's makeup in Werewolf of London.
Interesting.
Because he had like a toned down, like big sideburns and the teeth.
I never saw it, but it's supposed to be sort of a satire, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a
So
straight werewolf movie.
Yeah. And, it's got parts that are okay. It's not great by any stretch.
And the remake of The Wolfman in 2010?
Okay, that was one I'll give it a generous passable.
Okay. He's a stern critic.
Yeah.
He's harsh.
Yeah. I mean, it won't match up to the original Wolfman, but, it was a nice try.
Okay.
But,
I
yeah.
love the description in IMDb that the plot of The Wolfman. Upon return to homeland, American man is bitten and cursed by a werewolf.
That's it.
Isn't that's every werewolf movie? That's
yes.
Pretty much.
Oh, here's my favorite description of a movie. On TV, they had on this Charles Bronson movie, Murphy's Law. And him and Kathleen Wilhoit, I think was...
Okay.
I started to say that like Johnny Carson.
Ooh, Catherine Wilhoit.
Hey-oh! And it says, a wrongly accused police detective goes on the run with a rude girl.
That's a great description. Fantastic.
And sure enough, during the movie, she's saying to Bronson, "Hey, dog breath."
So she was rude.
That's rude.
Yeah, so she was very rude.
Lived up to its synopsis. Two wolf movies I kind of like, and they're both strange werewolf movies. They're on the fringe of being werewolf movies. One is Neil Jordan's The Company of Wolves. I don't know if you know that
yes,
picture.
that's like kind of like a fairy tale.
It's like a Little Red Riding
That's a great
Hood
title,
take.
Company of
Yeah, I
Wolves.
recommend it with David Warner, who we love, Terrence Stamp,
yeah.
and Angela Lansbury. It's kind of a kinky revisionist take on Red Riding Hood. And I don't know if you've ever seen Albert Finney and Gregory Hines in Wolfen.
Yes.
From the 80s.
Yes.
Which I kind of like.
And I think it was produced by Alan King.
That is correct.
Yes.
And Rupert Hitzig, his former partner.
And
I don't know why I know that.
Because Albert Finney, as he proved in whatever that Julia Roberts movie was.
Erin Brockovich.
Eric Brockovich.
Eric Brockovich.
Yeah.
Aaron.
He doesn't do the most convincing American accent.
No. He doesn't bother sometimes.
So they wrote into the movie, into Wolfman.
Wolfen.
Wolfman
is the Jewish Jewish werewolf. Wolfman.
The Wolfen. They wrote into it that they wrote in a line like, "Oh, they used to call me the Limey." He didn't say he was from England. He didn't, but Limey is a term for England.
To cover the bad accent.
Yes.
Okay.
But I love his accent in Brockovich because there it's like he's a Southern.
I love Albert Finney in anything.
Yeah, because then he's like, "Well, Aaron, I'm sending you on an important assignment." And you go, "Oh, good job."
You're making him
Albert.
sound like Dub Taylor.
Yes.
So we recommend Wolfen and Company of Wolves. Gilbert says some of those bad werewolf movies aren't so bad. And also, just for personal reasons...
None of them are great. None of them are good. None of them are even respectable.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Then we lived up to the title of this episode.
They're all teenage passable, if you like, a dopey movie. And Wolf... by no stretch great.
And for personal reasons, I will recommend the great Larry Cohen, our former podcast guest, directed a comedy called Full Moon High. And I'm only going to recommend it because of the cast. Adam Arkin, Kenneth Mars, Pinky Tuscadero.
Oh, wow.
Pat Morita, Louis Nye, Ed McMahon, who you just impersonated, Damon Wilson, and, of course, our friend Bob Saget.
See, now that I have to see.
Full Moon High, Larry Cohen.
And Larry Cohen,
we got to get him back here. He was a piece of work.
Most of our guests, after like an hour and a half, they start, they get tired of sitting, talking, all that. He would have gone on. If we let him, he would have been talking now.
If we left, he would have kept doing the show. We love Larry. I'm sure he's got many more stories in him, so we'll have him back.
And he's another one of those guys who, when you listen to him, you think, he's wonderfully full of shit.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's great. He's what this podcast is all about. So that, my friend,
terrific.
That wraps, bad werewolf movies. Thank you for your help, Paulie.
Could I add one little tidbit?
Quickly, as we're out of time.
Yes.
We're out of time. We saw the new Halloween this weekend, and I highly recommend it.
Do you?
It's much better than it had to be.
Okay.
So check it out and tweet us and let us know what you think.
All right. On your say-so. Gilly, shall you take us out?
Oh, okay. This has been, okay.
The face of the screaming werewolf.
What has this been?
Wait. Let me just remember one thing. Even a man who is pure at heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. This has been Gilbert and Frank's amazing colossal obsession with bad werewolf movies.
Maria's starting to sound a little like Hervé.
Yeah.
Those obsessions were truly amazing.
It's a werewolf! Oh no! Run for your life! Get me my silver bullet!